Thank you. If someone walked into your office or home and asked for all of your money and told you that if you refused, you'd be blown up immediately, what would you do? Well, on December 4th, 1894, a man walked into the office of the famous financier Russell Sage and demanded that Mr. Sage give him $1,200,000 in cash. He told Sage that if he refused to give him the money, he would drop his satchel, which he claimed contained dynamite, and blow up the whole area. Russell Sage, who hadn't become rich by giving money away, especially in amounts like that, told the man to leave the office or he'd call the police, whereupon the man dropped the bag he was carrying. The contents went off in a great explosion, killing or injuring several clerks and, of course, the man with the satchel. All they found were his head and a metal button with which they were finally able to trace his identity. The trouble in dealing with individuals who are mentally unbalanced is that while we can't imagine anyone blowing himself up to carry out a threat, the individual himself might think it's a good idea. Whenever your life is threatened, don't try to imagine what the person will do if you refuse to do as he says. You might be wrong. Along this same line is the story of one of New York's greatest unsolved crimes. It was the Great Wall Street explosion, which took place at noon on September 16th of 1920. Somebody drove a horse and wagon up to the assay office, parked it there, and then left the scene. 5 minutes later, a bomb, which had been concealed in the wagon, went off, killing 30 people and injuring 200. The only clue found was one horseshoe. The driver of the wagon was never found, nor was anyone who had any connection with the crime. You can still see evidence of the tragedy, I understand, today in the J.P. Morgan building, whose Wall Street side still contains the pockmarks that were made by the flying fragments of metal. These mad bombers, extortionists, kidnappers, and criminals of various kinds often believe themselves, because of their warped minds, to be perfectly justified in their acts, and there's no way of telling what they'll do. The woman cashier who poked her ballpoint pen into the muzzle of a would-be robber's leveled revolver and managed to frighten him off was the company hero not too long ago. But she just as well could have been killed with her own pen being pushed along at a good clip by a bullet. You just never know what they're going to do. There was the case of the suicide of John Ward, and as Freeling Foster points out, no suicide ever had more drama, suspense, was witnessed by more persons, or created more commotion, inconvenience, and expense. Before he leaped from the 17th-story ledge of a Fifth Avenue hotel in New York on the night of July 26, 1938, this man stood on the ledge for 11 hours. Relatives and others tried to entice the demented man back into his room. Firemen tried to trap him with nets. Extra squads of police held back the vast crowd of spectators, while scores of press photographers, newsreel men, and radio commentators covered the one-man show, all of which cost the city and these news services $100,000. It was to no avail. I'll be back in 1 minute. The human mind is a strange and wonderful thing. When it gets out of balance, you can look for the tragic, the bizarre, and to you, incomprehensible behavior that only a human being seems to be capable of. This is Earl Nightingale. Thank you.